Broadcasting from Now Media Network's headquarters in Houston, this is Be Productive, hosted by business strategist and productivity expert Clara Capano. Join us to discuss the most critical issues affecting our businesses with a fresh, practical, and objective discussion on the first bilingual media network in the United States. Be Productive starts right now.
Hi, and welcome back to Be Productive. You know, one of the best things that we can do to help us to stay productive and also really work on building that bottom line is to really focus on customer retention. So to help me with this conversation, I have my friend Rob Tritt here with us. So Rob, welcome to the show.
Hi, Clara. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Love it. And you know, you're a business consultant and a business coach as well. Talk to us a little bit about customer retention. More importantly, what are some of the strategies that businesses can use to improve customer retention, which we all know ultimately is going to improve the bottom line?
Sure. Well, so one of the most important ones, obviously, is to have really great products and services that customers love. You know, obviously, things like a roofing company, customers aren't going to buy a lot of roofs in their lifetime. But, you know, consumables, for instance, like vitamins and those kind of products, if they're really good, very high quality, consumers will come back over and over to reorder those products. So having a great product that consumers love is definitely something you want to have. That's a great way to encourage customer retention. The second way is to have great customer service. And I think that's something that so many companies don't pay attention to. They think of it almost as an afterthought. You know, if we treat our customers right with respect and we provide the support system they need throughout the customer experience journey, then they will stay with you longer, which is going to improve the lifetime value of the customer. And that's very important because obviously that contributes to revenue for the company.
Absolutely. Yeah, I am a firm believer that oftentimes, you know, the best source of referral business is from our current clients because the way that they are treated during the journey, you know, the experience that they have, you know, is really going to be the story that they share with others. And I think so many times companies are working on what I call the churn and burn. They're out there just finding new customers, new customers, new customers. And even though you're always going to want to be bringing in new, fresh customers, taking care of your current customer base, you know, these are people that already know you, like you, and trust you. So talk to me a little bit more on the importance of this customer journey, the importance of creating more of an experience and how that can help us retain our loyal customers.
Yeah. So if we look at the beginning of the customer journey process, you know, how do we find customers? How do we bring them on board? How do we service the customers? How, you know, provide the products and services, and then how do we transition them off out of the company at some point? That whole process should be easy. You know, it's important. Look at the steps that go into each one of those, and find where those speed bumps are. Wherever we can find those speed bumps, we want to minimize those as much as possible. It should be an easy process. People like things things that are easy. And the less hassle they are, the more likely they are to go through them.
Yeah. And I always kind of liken this with the concept of hospitality. You know, there is service, which is what we do, and then hospitality, which is how we make people feel. And again, in bringing in that human level, it's not just about checking off the boxes. It's again about creating that experience with you. It's about building that relationship that we have. Now, one of the things I know a lot of companies have been doing over the years, and now it seems like almost every company has some sort of loyalty program. So talk to me about your take on loyalty programs and how you feel that they can really impact, you know, the overall profit of a company.
Loyalty programs are actually very interesting. They're great because people love rewards, and they'll work for rewards. You know, how often do you use a credit card that you get flyer miles on, or discounts on hotels or meals? You don't have to use it, but you use it because you want the miles or the rewards. So, and then, like grocery stores, they do reward programs for fuel points. You buy $100 worth of groceries, you get X number of fuel points. So we shop at that store just for the fuel points. So having the rewards is a great way to really bring back the customer over and over again, because they just want the rewards.
Exactly. And I would imagine, and I would love your take on this as an expert in the field, if you can, one, have the loyalty program, but then pair it with exceptional service. I mean, that's the winning combination right there, because you can have a loyalty program, but if you give terrible service, that may not really get you the end result that you want.
Absolutely. Yes. That's a dynamic duo to have both of those. Yes.
Fantastic. So, Rob, tell us a little bit more about you and your company. This is an area that you are an expert in. So talk to us a little bit about how, people can work with you, find you, and just a little bit more about what your company does to help people and build their bottom line.
Sure. So, what we do is we work with professional services businesses primarily to help them with their operational needs, their sales, and their marketing, as well as their process and procedures. So I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me at Rob Tritt on LinkedIn. You can also go to my website, profitpartnergroup.com. You can call me at 770-256-8216 or email me at rob@profitpartnergroup.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob, so much. I loved this conversation, and it's something that I am very passionate about too. It's, again, in building these relationships. So for all of you that are watching, I really hope that you are taking this to heart. Again, it's not just about delivering service. It's about delivering an exceptional experience for them. And the more that you can really make it easy and make it valuable, that is how you're going to retain your loyal customer base. And at the end of the day, that's how you're going to be able to really grow your profits and keep you in the area that you want to be. So I hope you found value in this segment, because stay tuned. We're going to be bringing you back for more Be Productive. Welcome back to Be Productive. I am so excited because, just as the show promises, we are talking about what it means to truly be productive, because there's a huge difference between being busy and being productive. And to help me talk about some tips and strategies so that you can level up your own productivity, I have my friend, Mark Lamplugh. Mark, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you.
So, talking about being productive, there are so many different ways, and everybody has to sort of find their own rhythm to productivity. I would love to hear from you. You are the CEO of a behavioral health organization. And so there are tons of moving parts in what you have to do each and every day. When it comes to productivity, what are some of the best strategies that you have used for yourself to help you stay productive?
Well, thanks for having me on the show. And, I guess I would say one of the biggest things that had, kept me being productive is just staying on a routine and schedule. And that starts at the home. I'm a single father of a 3-year-old son who I've had since he was 1. So it's quite challenging, the mornings and getting them ready, to go to the nanny and then getting to work is just making sure I'm staying on a schedule every day, from the time I get up until the time I hit the bed. And I have everything planned throughout the day, including my meetings, using my calendar, and just staying, really on top of a schedule. That's really one of the—
true. And I'm really glad that you bring this up, because this is something that I talk with people about every day. I am a firm believer in schedules, like you, single mom since my son was about 1.5. So I understand exactly where you're coming from and the need for it. Being that I work with so many entrepreneurs, they fight me on this and they say, no, I got into being an entrepreneur because I want to have freedom and flexibility, and a schedule is so regimented. And my thought is that a schedule actually brings you freedom because it allows you to really compartmentalize and make room for all the right things. So, it's easy to say we have a schedule, but what have you found that the schedule has done for you, other than just letting you know when your meetings are, from sort of a mindset, energy, and then also what you can get done? What are some of the real tangible things that a schedule has allowed you to accomplish?
Well, I don't just use the schedule for meetings. I also use it for tasks, to send notifications of when I'm supposed to turn something in, or where,
Mhm.
when I have to be somewhere, for a moment, I got to pay a bill, for everything, not just for meetings. And another thing, I don't really think it traps you to the schedule, because the schedule's, pretty much ever changing. And it was just today, for instance, I was doing so much in the office that I make it a point to check my drafts in my email. And I had like 9 draft emails, of emails that I started, that I got sidetracked. Somebody came in, I had to do something else. So I always make sure I go back every maybe hour or two, just to go through my drafts to make sure I get everything sent out that I was doing. So, it's not necessarily just a calendar, but it's, having tasks in place that you do, that's a routine that keeps you on top of the things that you need to do. Because I get pulled in 100 different directions
Yeah,
every
for sure.
hour.
Exactly. So, talking about that, one of the things that I oftentimes people do with the schedule is they overbook themselves. They overcommit. They don't leave any buffer zone. Do you find that it's been helpful for you to leave a little bit of time between meetings, to give you that extra space? Do you just pack things up against each other? What are some of the best strategies for keeping your schedule successful?
I try to time limit everything, based on what the meeting is. If I know it's going to be quick, it might be a 10-minute schedule. If it's going to be a half hour, if they're recurring, I kind of learn the length that certain tasks would take me, or meetings or calls, and then I plan accordingly. And there's always some free time in those days, for other things. I mean, you're not really filling up completely.
Right. So let's talk nitty gritty here. You have your day put together, you have everything put into place, just like the game Tetris. And then something comes up that's going to pull you off the schedule. How do you make those adjustments for when the unexpected comes up?
I will obviously email. If I have to reschedule something, I email everybody and let them know that I can't make it. I have to reschedule the appointment.
Mhm.
Um, Yeah, mostly it's, things like that. If it's something that I have to get done, then I'll, plan to move other things around. It's really just day by day, and trying to determine what needs to get done or prioritized, and what
Yep.
can be pushed off.
That's that key word there, prioritization,
Hmm.
because you could have the best laid plans, but new things are going to come up. And so, what I always tell people is, even though you have the structure of the schedule, you have to also allow for the flexibility, because that's life and
Hmm.
that's going to happen. And you have to be able to pivot. And as a CEO, that's part of the game is, you're the leader. You have to be able to address these things as they come up. And that's what makes a strong leader, is understanding it's not always about following things. You have to sometimes pivot and be flexible to address the things that come together. So you mentioned email. Are there any other technologies that you use or that you think are helpful for people in helping them to manage their time, block distractions, or just again, sort of stay on top of things?
Sure. So yes, there is, and I would say a lot of today the technology falls in pretty much all aspects of the business. And what I mean by that is, if you, we use a lot of different things for how we run our facility. So starting from the first call, we use a phone system that integrates with our CRM. That way there, some of that information can transfer over. Our CRM then integrates with our EMR.
Mhm.
So there's services that work as softwares and things like that. And when you're planning out projects at your business, or personally, look for applications that talk to each other, That way there you can minimize the time it takes. You don't have to redo certain steps 2, 3, 4 times, and you can save a lot of time that way. And I pretty much, make sure that's a mandatory thing that I look at when I'm implementing something.
Yeah. Using those systems and leveraging things like a CRM, is so critical, and having those systems. So again, you can duplicate the responses. It may seem so minimal because it only shaves a minute off. But when you think you have to do that several times a week, all that time starts adding up. Now, as a CEO, you have got to delegate things. And delegation is really hard for people because they have that mindset of, oh, it only takes a few minutes. I can do it easier myself than telling somebody else. Or, I'm the boss, I should do this. What are some of the things that have helped you to learn how to delegate? And if you were talking with one of your team members, maybe one of your managers or team leaders, and they were, struggling with this, how do you encourage people to understand the power of letting go so that you can do more in your role?
It's funny that you bring this up because it was something I was just talking about earlier, because that was like one of my biggest things that I had to work on myself. Because if I came upon a task, I would try to do everything to the point where a lot of things were getting pushed aside and maybe not getting done in an efficient amount of time. So I've personally gotten really good at giving the things off that others that I know are qualified in my company to do, whatever department that may be, or the task, or what have you, is turning those things over. And I have been doing a really good job of that lately. And it was just brought up to me today by, some of the.
It's one of those skill sets we have to keep learning over and over again. So, and
I think that really
being so
comes down
open.
to trust. It comes down to
Exactly.
making sure you can trust the people that you work with, and having good hires. And when you're involved in the hiring process and you get to interview those people and then you start them, you have a better relationship because you can see their performance and know that if you give them a task, they're going to do it.
Exactly. And that's, again, part of being a good leader, is bringing in people and empowering them to level up and do their best in their area. And that way everybody gets to do their best. So, Mark, this has been great. And I appreciate you really giving us some hands-on strategies, because I think people really struggle with this. And again, being productive is different than being busy. And we want to be able to, again, get more done and work smarter. So tell us a little bit more about you and your company. What is it that you do, and where can people find you?
Like I am the CEO of South Jersey Treatment Management Company. It's based in South Jersey. We have a substance use disorder treatment center in Mullica Hill, New Jersey. We have a mental health outpatient center in West Deptford. We're currently opening a counseling center in Marlton, New Jersey, and a detox as well, addiction treatment detox center in New Jersey. And I have a website, marklamplu.com. And then the company's website is sjtmc.com.
Amazing. Well, you are just doing remarkable things, and I honor you and your company for being able to bring more awareness to wellness and helping people get stronger. So thank you so much for what you're doing, and thank you for being here with us today. And
Thank
for
you.
all of you that are watching, I hope that you took some great notes. I hope you have a new insight on the power of scheduling and delegating, and what you can do to help you be productive. Stay tuned, because we'll be back for more. Welcome back to Be Productive. For any of us that are running businesses, problems are going to happen. Sometimes we call them incidents. And when these incidents happen, we have to pay attention to them. And sometimes we have to document them, because we want to be able to bring these in and also learn from them. So to talk about how we can have proper documentation is my friend, Greg Schaffer. So Greg, thanks for coming into the show today.
Thank you for having me.
So when these incidents, we'll call them, happen, what are some of the key elements for effective reporting and responding and having a plan to really document and learn from these incidents as they happen?
So an information security incident is usually one or more events that happen that leads to the possibility that you might have a breach occur, or loss of information, or loss of system functionality, something along those lines. And therefore, it's important to understand that not all events create an incident, but when there is an incident, you want to have a plan in place in order to understand in a very, very methodical method. I guess that's redundant there, to go through the incident response, because the quicker that you can respond and get back to operations, the less damage there would be. So you have to prepare for it. You have to think about this. This includes training. You have to establish communication channels about how you're going to communicate it, and then also talk to your vendors about it. Vendor management is huge, particularly in the small and mid-sized business world. A lot of the services that we use are through vendors. We don't have things in-house. You have to detect, so you have to be monitoring in some way, shape, or form. Then when you identify them, you have to contain it as soon as possible. What you want to do is that you want to make sure that the incident doesn't cause more damage. And so what does that mean? You got to stop it immediately and then isolate it so it can't spread. Then at that point in time, you want to eradicate it. So identify what happened. Is it, if it's a computer virus, get rid of the virus and get yourself to a point of recovery. That's the next part of an incident response plan. And recovery is exactly what it says it is. You have to get to a point of restoring normal business operations. Sometimes you may not be able to restore everything the way you were beforehand. You can temporarily restore it with different processes in place. We call that business continuity planning as well. So they kind of tie together. And then finally, you want to learn the lessons. We call that in information security. It's kind of a little ghoulish, but we call it a post-mortem. But you want to examine what happened so that you can learn from it. Now, certainly during all this, there's going to be elements where you're going to have to communicate, because the worst thing you can do is not communicate, or communicate ineffectively with both your customers. You want to keep the reputational risk down to a minimum. And also, you're possibly going to have to communicate with law enforcement. Actually, probably if you determine that it's definitely a breach. You got to understand your roles and responsibilities. Everybody has a role to play. You don't want to be in a incident where you get the finger pointing going on. So that's part of the plan. And then, of course, documenting it and testing the plan and then reviewing it as time goes on.
Yeah. Some of the things that I really appreciate what you're bringing together is, when we talk about this show, Be Productive, this is exactly what we're doing. We have plans to grow profit, but we also have to have plans in place for those threats to our growth. And that's what I hear you saying here, is because when these breaches happen, when these incidents occur, they're going to zap our productivity. And it's not a matter of, if it's going to happen, it's more a matter of when is it going to happen. And so we want to have these plans in place so that, as you said, we can get back to work as normal, as quickly as possible. So we want to do that. Now, one of the things that you and I have talked about in the past is also the fact of that the environment is constantly changing. And unfortunately, these risks, these types of breaches are also evolving. So how often should an organization look at updating, re-strategizing, adapting their plans? What kind of frequency should they be looking at?
At least annually. They should be reviewing the plans annually and testing the plans annually. And that the testing doesn't mean just checking the box compliance. It's like, okay, we've got this in here, we've got this in here. Actually go through an exercise. Some will use a tabletop exercise and some sort of mock scenario. It helps with what I call muscle memory. If you practice what you said that you're doing in the plan, and you may find gaps. Usually you will find gaps every time you go through it, because as you mentioned, the external environment is changing as well too, the external threat environment. So that's one part that goes into the frequency of how often you want to test and review. But the other part is, if you make any significant changes to your environment, you bring in a new system, you have a M&A happened, or you have a really large new client that's like 50% of your business or something along those lines. Any significant change, you want to rerun the test and review the plan.
Yeah. I would imagine, for me as a business owner, but there's probably other business owners that are like, all this sounds great. Yes, I need this, but this is so outside of my wheelhouse. This is not something I would even know where to begin with. So when we look at partnering with a company like yours, what role does a company like yours, these, virtual companies, do in helping us to plan and to document, all of these items that we need to have in place?
We can put it into 4 buckets. The first is before something happens. So training and preparing. Some of that is we will lead those tabletop exercises because you want someone outside of the organization ideally to lead it, because you need that independence, and you need to understand how the organization is going to actually be responding. And sometimes that looks into also what kind of policies you have in place. We talked about the incident response plan. That's part of the preparedness. We will help develop that. Now, during an incident, the virtual CISO is going to be an advisor to your incident response team. The virtual CISO is not usually going to be one of the in the trenches responder. We're not digital forensics experts. There are folks out there that do a very good job with that. And that's very important to consider, because you want to make sure you're preserving evidence just in case, and you want to have the right people with the right skill set there at the right time. And then third will be the post-incident analysis. We're going to help you with that post-mortem. We're going to help you look at, well, what went well, what didn't go well, and what can be done better. So this would be areas with regards to even how you're reporting it, and then maybe incorporating that into the testing plan and the incident response plan itself. And that's for the fourth one, with the continuous improvement. And that's, everything is continuous. Everything is changing. Nothing is static in information security. You may need a new tool, for example, if the monitoring wasn't successful. And that doesn't mean a tool that you necessarily bring in-house. Like, for example, Microsoft Office 3, or they call it Microsoft 365 now, has excellent monitoring tools within there. And it may mean just activating some of those tools there. That's what a virtual CISO can help with as well, recommending where you can help mitigate those risks.
Love it. So talk to us a little bit about your company. Again, you've been doing this for a very long time. You are what I consider to be an expert in this field. So talk to us a little bit about your company and, some of the things that you guys really specialize in.
We were founded in 2017. My goal of creating the company was that I wanted to help small and mid-sized businesses. I saw a real gap there, and it still exists today, where the small and mid-sized businesses really haven't been paid much attention from the greater information security community, at least not as much as they should right now. And they also don't have the resources to bring on a chief information security officer. It can be quite expensive. So we provide that fractionally. And we're not limited to just one industry. We work across various industries, various verticals, various sizes of companies as well, too. We've done private, we've done public, we've done companies from anywhere from several thousand employees down to 4 employees. So really, it's dependent upon your need, but every company has a need for proper information security.
Yeah, awesome. And Greg, I love having you here on the show. And one of the things that you have really done for me is you've taken something that can be very overwhelming and very scary, and you simplify it. And so for all of you out there that, are starting to get the wheels turning in your brain, having somebody like Greg in your corner that is going to be able to talk to you on a human level. You don't talk over me, you talk with me, and you really make it easily digestible. And I appreciate that so much. So thank you for being here on the show. Thank you for educating us and for making us stronger each and every day. And for all of those that are watching, I hope that you took some notes. I hope that you jotted down how to get in touch with Greg and his company, because if you want to stay productive, you need to have all of these tips, all of these strategies, and all of these systems in play for you so that you do not miss a beat. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back for even more Be Productive. Welcome back to Be Productive. I'm your host, Clara Capano. As we grow our businesses, we want to make sure that we are taking the right steps to ensure proper growth. And one of the things that we need to do is look at our compliance. Are we following things the right way to, again, yield the right results and to keep everything above board? So to help us with this conversation, I am bringing in the president of Shelton and Associates, my friend, Ryan Conn. So Ryan, welcome to the show today.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, so, we're talking compliance. That can be a very scary word for people. Oh no, we're talking the law and we're talking about, staying out of trouble. But let's talk about compliance. Why is this so important, especially when it comes to the tax obligations that are out there for entrepreneurs and small business owners?
That's a wonderful question, and this is an area of hazard that a lot of entrepreneurs, small business owners, freelancers, contractors, they really don't foresee this. When you're getting into business, you've just identified a passion or a skill that you have, and now you're trying to go out there and conquer the world using your skill and make a way for yourself. What you're not thinking about is, how do I keep in compliance with the IRS, the state, and the local regulatory bodies? And that's where you need helpers with. One of the biggest things we see, and in our field, it's almost shocking, but most people don't realize that if they're a corporation, if they're any type of company type in that entity status, that their filing date for taxes is March 15th and not April 15th. So we'll have people come in late March saying, hey, I'm a new client to you, can you file my taxes? And they're already late. And that invokes a lot of penalties, late filing fees, and it's just literal money that you could have been using for yourself that you're just throwing away to the government for one simple compliance issue.
Yeah. One of the things that I could never keep a pulse point on are all of the deductions, the credits. They seem like they're changing minute by minute. So talk to us about some of maybe the credits, the deductions that are available for entrepreneurs that maybe we're not aware of, and how do we stay on top of all of these things?
That's a great one. I'll give you another area where people can unfortunately get a little jammed up, and that's for travel. So keeping track of your miles, your vehicle expenses and things like that. If you have a company vehicle, we highly recommend you do that, but there are due diligence steps that you need to do to make sure that's followed through correctly. And one of those is a contemporaneous log that you have to keep up with your mileage. And you may think to yourself, the commercial truck drivers sit there and fill out their log every day. Well, guess what? The freelancer and the contractor that's claiming their vehicle has to have a contemporaneous log as well. So we teach people to leverage technology, have one of those apps working in the background to where you can just look at your phone or your data reports and categorize everything in seconds instead of minutes and hours ultimately by the time the year is done. So that's one big area. Another one would be also the way in which you pay people. So if you're paying somebody more than $600 in 1 year, you are forced to issue a Form 1099, and that's reported to the government. If you don't do that, you face significant fines for every form that you did not file. Again, that's just another way that you can be forking over your money for free to the government instead of using it to grow your business.
Wow. All these little nuances. Again, this is stuff that just is so overwhelming and outside, the normal day-to-day operations of an entrepreneur who needs to be out there in the field getting the business coming in. So just another great example of why we need to partner with someone like you. Can you think about maybe a time you were sitting down with a client and you started going over some of these and you just saw the light bulbs coming up? Like what are some of the ways that you've been able to save some entrepreneurs some good cash by going through some of these?
That's a wonderful question. So we have seen people have entire functioning portions of their business. So we have a client that is really big in fiber optics. They're really big into running wires and poles and things like that. He had an entire workshop at his house where he would prepare so much material, so much trucks. They would load and unload from his house. And this is a huge specialty purpose building, which is a specific category in depreciating. He didn't have the building included. He didn't have any of the equipment inside of it. He just thought that was part of his house and he couldn't use it. And we were able to capture all of that. Of course, there's a compliance method to how we do that, and we saved that guy $205,000 in 2 years of taxes, just one capturing and doing it through the compliance work, because technically those things had to be capitalized and captured on the tax return anyway, and he was just running his business, doing a great job, but he did not know that one, if a liability issue came up, his personal property was in jeopardy when really that should have been commercial property. So there's legal ramifications, tax ramifications, and we all got that cleaned up for his maximum benefit.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Again, Just so much insight that you bring. Now, another thing that we need to do as entrepreneurs and business owners is forecast. We need to always be looking into the future. So how can following and navigating through these compliance situations help us with planning ahead for the future?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. Planning for the future is one of the main things we're all about. We don't want to be looking at history and just reporting numbers, just reporting the facts of how things played out. We want to be navigating for the future. And a great way to do that, I can think of one, is where people are sole proprietorships or partnerships, right? They've never truly incorporated, but they're making significant amounts of money and they are having to pay a boatload of self-employment tax. That's 15.3% of your revenue just gone to the government. Well, if you are making significant money, doing some type of election to be a corporate status could drastically reduce your taxes. Now, the compliance says you are required to then make reasonable compensation to the partners and owners, the stockholders, but those reasonable compensation factors are based on a myriad of different minutia, and that comes out throughout the year. So you may actually pay yourself a lot less money through W-2 wages, but be able to take home a much larger net profit and skip out on your self-employment tax at the same time, which you're liable for both sides of that self-employment tax. So it sounds a little convoluted, but the average person that we see come in the door that makes an election like this, they're not just saving 15.3% of their revenue. To put out numbers, the average person saves $30,000, $50,000, $60,000 in taxes they should never have been paying the whole time.
Wow. Wow, that's just mind-boggling. So that's incredible. You know, in one of our previous conversations, you talked about the idea that you are really a trusted advisor with your clients. What I would love to ask is, as the president of Shelton and Associates, what does being a trusted advisor mean to you? And more importantly, what does that mean to your clients?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. I appreciate that. So for us, trusted is very important. We want a relationship. So you're going to trust me to look inside your business on a deeper level than what the traditional accountant in maybe what we call a tax factory would be doing. I'm going to pop the hood of your business and look at all that information and give you a diagnosis. You're trusting me to do that. And then when I give you the feedback, it's still your company. You run your company. But if I come up with 5, 6, 7 options and opportunities for you, the likelihood is you should take most, if not all of those. And some of them may not just be purely workable, but you trust me that I've done the research, I have the expertise, and I'm working to your best benefit. And we package all of that out, so we're not just spontaneously coming to things with you that we're going to bill you for. You're going to know all this up front, and then we're going to walk you through a plan. So there's no insult intended here, but most people, I don't want to make you into a junior accountant, a mini accountant. I want to hold your hand through success and allow you to just keep eyes up on your industry and going, and I'll help you do the work in the background till we get to your success point, your goals that you're checking off.
Beautiful. Love that, and love what you and your company are doing. So tell us, where can we find you? Because I know there's going to be people following this episode that are going to want to work with a partner like you.
We're located in Paducah, Kentucky, of all places. Love that state, love that city. And our phone number was probably the best way, or the website, 270-442-6688. And you can get a hold of CS Business Consulting there, or Shelton Associates. You just ask for which one you want to talk to. The website on the screen, csbizcon.com, and that's B-I-Z. You can go either there, and they'll find ways to schedule you and get you through to us, and we can start the conversation and get you help if that's what you're needing.
Beautiful. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for being here for another fantastic segment. And for those of you that are watching, keep yourself compliant. It's going to save you time, it's going to save you money, and it might just save your business. So make sure you are partnering with an expert that is going to be watching your books, watching your back, and watching your growth, and doing it all the right way. So stay tuned, because we're going to be right back with more Be Productive.
This has been a Now Media Networks feature.